in his early life, but he overcame it, in part due to joining his men's shed. And now he shares his passion as a very loud and strong advocate for men overcoming their isolation and loneliness. He's as an outreach speaker, a speaker extraordinaire. Varouj, who's sitting next to him, is the vice president of Men's Sheds. Varouj Gamutjian is vice president of MSABC. He's a retired architect with interest in men's wellness and social justice. He chairs the City of Vancouver Elders Advocacy Group and supported research on dementia and aging in place, and he was instrumental in the proclamation of the United Nations October 1st Elders Day. Punch Jackson is in the middle. He's co-chair of the Alberta Men's Shed Association. He's been a tireless advocate for men's health in Edmonton, right here, and across Alberta for 15 years and elsewhere too, focusing on social and recreational environments for men and developing collaborative community initiatives across the province. And Punch likes to say he doesn't belong to any one shed, it's the whole community of sheds that is his shed. Richard Nazedkin, next to him, is the co-chair of the Alberta Men's Shed Association, the other co-chair. Richard is also a fierce men's mental health advocate in Grand Prairie. When he was working on his mental health during an extended leave of absence in 2006, he found there was nowhere to go, nothing to do, and no one to talk to. But it wasn't until 2020 that he found the resources and the time to start the Men's Shed in Grand Prairie. And last on the end there is Colin McNerney. He's on the board of directors for Men's Sheds Manitoba. He's a retired Manitoba conservation officer. He joined the Neepawa Area Men's Shed at its inception in 2019 as the coordinator, secretary, and treasurer. In other words, the guy who does it all, right? He joined the Manitoba Men's Shed Board of Directors when the new board was formed in 2024. So welcome, men. So the format is this: I have 3 questions, and I'm going to ask each provincial association to answer these 3 questions. And sometimes there's 2. One of them will give the whole spiel, or they might share it. That's between them. They'll have about 5 minutes each. I'll try to give you a warning, and maybe Sherry at the back will too. But anyway, I certainly will. And we'll let you know when your time is just about up. So my first question, and I'm going to start with you, Jan, on this end. Tell us about the history and structure of your provincial association that serves sheds in your province. What successes are you most proud of and over the past few years? So we'll start with you, Jan.
So MSABC started, from what I've been told, because I wasn't part of it back then, 2017, started with 6 sheds in BC. It had something to do with Jim Gray, the Squamish shed, and it was all about trying to get a group insurance policy. So currently we have 9 board members consisting of all the health authorities except for 1 in BC. Most proud of the growth and the numbers of sheds we've created over the last few years, which is almost at 90 now. And because of dyslexia, sorry guys, I had trouble reading even this. I'm going to pass it over to Varouj.
What sentence are you? Okay, I'll read Jan's. We could not have gotten this far without those who came before us and those from the board and other shedders who continue to do the outreach in the communities near them. Well, we all work together as a team, as we all understand how important sheds are.
Is that it? Excellent, thank you. But we're going to be on time. Okay, next up for Alberta. Who's taking the lead in Alberta?
I will, thank you. Alberta Men's Shed Association. Higher. The Alberta Men's Shed Association was incorporated in 2023. At that time, we had 13 sheds. The organization grew out of what we've been referred to as, from outside organizations, as a bandit group in Edmonton that had the Edmonton Men's Shed Association. It was an incorporated body and developed all kinds of resources. And those resources were just transferred over to Alberta Men's Shed Association. There's a structure in our organization. We decided to go with the regional structure. So we have reps in Northeast, Northwest, Edmonton, Alberta Central, and Calgary, and Alberta South. So that's how we're structured.
How many sheds now?
Sheds now, 52.
Next.
Richard, oh, you want to add anything? Okay, terrific. Colin for Manitoba.
Men's Shed Manitoba was created in 2014 with the formation of Woodhaven Shed, which was the first men's shed in North America. But with no major funding, and it really didn't grow very much over the ensuing years, and mostly inactive outside of Winnipeg. In October 2024, a new board was formed, which I became a member of, with 5 members, and we had better funding, and there's 3 sheds in Winnipeg and 3 rural. That's when we first got going. There were 10 sheds as of late 2024. We've been able since to expand to 17 today, and we've got 6 potential coming up. So we're expanding quite rapidly, actually, and outreach is a major part of our push right now.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So the general trend is sheds are growing. The number of sheds are growing in all 3 provinces that are represented here. And you guys are doing an amazing job. So my next question is the flip side of the coin. What are some of the challenges that your provincial association is facing going forward? And it might be within your province, it might be outside your province, but just tell us about what's holding you back, or what are the issues you're having to overcome? And I'm going to start at the other end. I'm going to start with you, Colin, this time.
Well, some of our challenges are when we look west and we look at all the sheds, west of Manitoba, we're going, holy smokes, what are we doing here? We better get going. But we have an awful lot of catching up to do, and a big learning curve. Some of our challenges have been whether we're getting return on investment. We spend an awful lot of money on newspaper ads and digital ads around communities to not really get much in return for it. And I think we're probably like most sheds, is that you'll get a community that's very interested, and we'll go out and do outreach in the community, and I'll get half a dozen or a dozen guys that said, yeah, I want to be part of the shed, but I don't want to lead it. So everybody wanted to be shed members and to be leaders. So we put mileage and time and energy into going out to smaller communities, trying to get things going. We're starting to realize that maybe one of the areas we should be going to is women's service clubs, and doing presentations with them, so that the wives and the daughters can come back and say, Dad, get off your ass and do something. Because we all know that an awful lot of us shed members are there because of wives and women and telling us to go there. So we might be changing our tact a little bit. With only 5 board members and trying to do an awful lot, we're finding a little bit of overload. Bringing on a 6th board member just in the last little while will help us a little bit. We also there's realizing the importance of inter-shed communications and visiting, and I think interprovincial stuff is going to help an awful lot. There's just so many good ideas out there of how to expand things and how to do stuff. So I think communication is going to be really important for us in the future.
Okay, Alberta.
I'd like to also just acknowledge the Manitoba influence for me personally, and I think as well as for the Alberta Men's Shed, with Doug Mackey. And I was a little sad that he wasn't able to be here today, but I phoned Doug from Grand Prairie and I described this shed concept to him. And his advice was just, he says, it's very simple. He said, all you need is muffins, coffee, and a place to meet. And that's literally how I started. And I think the biggest challenge that we're seeing from the Alberta perspective is a typical men's shed member would be in two groups. And if it was a Venn diagram, the circles wouldn't even overlap very much. So there's one group where you've got guys that have energy and don't have the skills. And then you have another circle that's the guys that have the skills and they don't have the energy. And it's the unicorn where it overlaps and you get somebody that has the skills and has the to become that champion. And so what I'm always looking for within my shed and then within the province is there's really two people that get a shed going, and there's sort of two people that got the Provincial Men's Shed Association going. And one is what I call a champion, and that's usually, if not always, a male. But it's somebody that's that unicorn that's in the middle of the Venn diagram. And then there's a cheerleader. And for me, it was my wife. So she was my cheerleader. I like to think of Punch as the champion for the Alberta Men's Shed, and I took on that cheerleader role. So I go to Edmonton frequently, and we would have breakfast, and he would be starting to get frustrated, and I felt like my role was just to support him, and it was like a mini shed every time. And it was still the coffee and the muffins and the relationship building. So the biggest that's the biggest thing is that cheerleader and the champion.
Challenge that we all have is creating more voices. That's the key to the success of the men's sheds in each province. It's the success factor for men's sheds right across Canada. So if we have a challenge in Alberta, it's to maintain the partnerships that we already have, because we believed when we first started that there was no way in the world that we could cover this province with the three people that we had working. So the decision was made to build collaborative partnerships right across the province. We have key partnerships with, and you heard David Irvin talk this morning about FCSS. We have them as a key partner, and they have helped us create 25% of the sheds in Edmonton, in Alberta. We have Healthy Aging Alberta, which has a regional staff and have been amazing in giving us opportunities to do things and create more voices out there. So that's the challenge. All of us is creating more voices.
It is on. Okay, thanks. I'll continue Jan's kind of presentation here. We are, of course, BC is a large province with a lot of distance between communities. And the outreach program costs a lot of time and mileage, food, and sometimes hotels. A lot of this is done on our own dime, so funds are needed. Personally, we have been challenged with Vancouver Island, for example. I used to, go across the water and do a lot of outreach and programs with Vancouver Island. So luckily, we have found a fellow out of Langford, I guess. He's taken it on, and that seems to be the key. And it's getting better. The interior, Revelstoke, that area is also a challenge, but we're working at it. Having a booth at the conference also helps us make important contacts and starting new sheds. And the North Central Local Government Association, the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, and Provincial Health Aging Summits. One thing we do in BC's United Way has been very helpful. So, for example, the one in Richmond, there's the Healthy Aging Summit. We set up a table there, and my affiliation with the City of Vancouver older people, what Brian was talking about. They'll be able to give us a table. I think it's about $2,000 table or something. So we get these wonderful connections. And these people have advocated for sheds to be started to their communities. However, funding is required to attend. And one thing I'd like to add as well is communication. You're speaking about communication between the board members. It really works for us. Yeah, we pretty well talk to each other every second day. So it's wonderful relationship building.
Thanks for doing that. It makes it much easier because I look at this when I'm trying to read it. And though I wrote it, the words are still flying all over the place. So thanks for who's willing to do this for me.
Okay, the third and last question before we open it to questions on the floor is about collaboration. And I guess it's an open question is how can we all collaborate more? And that includes the Provincial Associations and Men's Sheds Canada. How can we all collaborate more closely in the future to better serve our sheds? And I'm going to start with Alberta first this time.
Part of the success that we've had in Alberta has come from the support that we've had from Men's Shed Canada. I was fortunate enough to be part of the group that for a year before Men's Shed Canada was formed was to be involved in the discussions. That was a very heated exercise. And I guess the one thing that I learned from that exercise was you don't have to protect your own turf. If you're going to stick around and you're going to live and die on your own turf, that's where you're going to end up. That you've got to be prepared to collaborate. You have to be prepared to listen to the other people. Exactly the same as you do in the shed, you're listening to the stories of the guys. You have to do the same thing when you're trying to develop a national strategy, a provincial strategy. You have to take that time. You have to be able to, this would be inappropriate to not say this in being from Edmonton, that you have to go to where the puck is going to be, not where it was. And so that's something you have to learn all the time in terms of working ahead, thinking ahead, being able to take advantage of information that's coming from somewhere else, whether that's somewhere else is New Zealand, Australia, Ireland, or could even be, we might even get information from Vernon. You never know. But you have to be prepared to listen, and you have to be prepared to connect the dots. When you start to hear about the research done by Movember and you have a national health strategy coming up, then you have to start to connect the dots as to where do men's sheds fit. So you have to be thinking that way all the time. Brian?
I'll just add,
Yep.
As they were talking, I was just thinking of a quote that perfection is the enemy of getting things done. And I think that you can have conversations and you can have discussion, but eventually you just deal with what you've got and see how it works. And if it blows up in your face, then you just as an experience and then move forward, because you're not going to have anything if you feel like you're going to have a perfect shed, because it's never going to happen.
Thanks. And I'll move on to Colin next.
And imperfection is something Men's Shed does very well. So we should keep focusing on collaboration. Is you know, what we've got here today in this room is the foundation of our collaboration, and I don't think everybody or anybody has all the answers. There's so many good ideas that are out there, and every shedder is willing to talk to you. Everybody in this room is willing to talk to everybody else. So there's so many great ideas. So I think collaboration, you know, amongst your provincial sheds, but nationally is really good. And yeah, we also acknowledge the Men's Shed Canada support that we've got. One thing we've, you know, discussed and wrestled with a few times is really, what is the definition of a shed, and should we actually be defining a shed and working to that definition, or should we all be, having sheds as we see fit? So it might be something that we need to talk about in the future, but certainly something like this is really the foundation of collaboration with all the sheds. And that even after ShedFest East, we need to talk nationally, about the whole thing.
Thanks, Colin. So how about BC?
Okay, here we go. Jurisdictional overlap occurs because it is not always clear where provincial associations and Men's Shed Canada boundaries are. So we're thinking like an MOU might be needed to clarify because it is an evolving, kind of constituency. For example, if someone from Saskatchewan is interested in starting a shed in this something PA, provincial administrator, would refer to MSC to do, or do we help that organization? If someone in a province wants to become a shed, so they get referred to the provincial association, or can MSC just decide? So these are questions to put forward. We have been approached by someone in the Yukon, for example. Does this become BC's jurisdiction or MSC? All of these could be clarified through an MOU between MSC and PAs, and all provinces would be treated the same, and clarification could be helped. Collaboration between the PAs and each other and MSC is important. Shared best practices, and of course we can all learn from each other. The United Way, I was sitting on a panel, and they do a fantastic job with getting cross references across the country. Ontario has got some really wonderful propositions. So other organizations do it. So it's, kind of your principles. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah, terrific.
That term, MOU.
Memorandum of Understanding. But great segue into the next little piece here, because we do have an MOU. We developed it about 3 years ago between Men's Sheds Canada and the provinces, the 3 existing provinces at the time. And a part of that was about building good fences. Good fences make good neighbors, eh? And so we wanted to not step on each other's toes. We wanted to not duplicate efforts. And so we lined up all of our activities that we had anticipated, and how we would not interfere with each other. So I'm going to say the emphasis then was on building the fences. I think that going forward, maybe we need to do that as a 2.0 version. How do we actually collaborate? Rather than not duplicate, how do we work together towards a success, towards serving all sheds across Canada? And so that's something we will be discussing. We do meet regularly at a outreach community of practice meeting, the Provincial Associations and Men's Sheds Canada. We developed a whole bunch of best practices. We have a document about that. And outreach is done very well in different ways in different provinces. And some are ahead of, well, I'm not going to say ahead of the curve. Some activities fit for that particular province at that particular time. And so we have put together a best practices document, and maybe it's time to redo that one because the world changes and social media changes and the way we do outreach changes. But we'd have those discussions monthly, as I will say, amongst all the leaders, more than the gentleman at the table here. So we do have that going on, and we do have an MOU that we will be refreshing because it's really is time. And as the provincial associations have gotten more mature, we still have treated it as a peer-to-peer relationship. They don't report to us and we don't report to them. But, it's not about reporting, it's about collaborating. So we will be discussing it this summer, a new MOU. And so I would like to open the floor for questions to anybody. And there's a lot of us in this room, so I'd like to just do it very carefully and systematically. What I invite you to do is put up your hand, and when I see you, I'll point to you. You want to call it? You want to say it? Oh, and there's one more thing that Jan wants to talk about.
Well,
Okay, we'll tackle membership criteria. It should include joining PAs as well as MSC.
Yeah.
If anyone is interested in sheds and they look up men's shed, it automatically defaults to MSC. It should say if you are in Alberta, click this link, BC link, this link, etc. The reason being the PAs know where the sheds in their province are. They can connect them to a shed in their location or arrange for an outreach in their community. It should be stressed that sheds are not political or religious, although some sheds rent church spaces. Make it easier for sheds to get grants, approved to get a charitable status, receipts. Yeah, that's,
Yeah, thanks. So Colin mentioned, just 1 second. Colin mentioned that we need to define what's a shed, as a matter of fact. What is a men's shed or what isn't a men's shed? We need to come to some kind of agreement about that. Am I right? Yeah. And what about membership in an association? So if you join Men's Sheds of Association of BC, does that make you a member of Men's Sheds Canada or vice versa? Right now, the answer is no. Should we be aligned? I think the answer is yes. So we have some work to do towards that because 99% of the time we all get along with informally, and then 1% of the time we kind of crash. So those are the things we're going to talk about in the MOU discussions. Did we cover that? Did we get that okay? Okay, great. So again, I want to open the floor for questions, and I don't know that we can run around with mics, but what I want to say is put your hand up. I'll see you. State your question loudly. And I invite you to state where you're from too, your name and your shed, and then your question and who it's for. And I will repeat it so that everybody online can hear the question. Okay, so the floor is open. Over here. Stand up and speak really loud, please.
I guess it's good about everyone, like provincial and federally. Is there any plans to try and coordinate a group directors and officers insurance policy?
Oh, great question. So thanks, Philip. The question is, has there been any effort to coordinate because different provincial associations have negotiated different agreements around insurance, and it turns out that insurance, the rules are different in every province. So we have tried in a couple of times, and Jim Miller is trying to find out if this is possible. Do you want to say anything to it, Jim? Yeah.
Insurance agent to work on. And this fellow from Quebec, I didn't talk to him because
Okay.
it might be a state issue, but everybody else should be able to get on policy. I was just talking to last week, and we went over, I needed all of the activities that sheds do. So there's some general ones.
Yep.
That all fit. There's a few that do not, like the rocketry or water.
Explosives, yeah, okay. It's going to be hard. Take one, sure.
Possible policy.
Yeah.
Close.
Okay,
Days have insurance policies now, integrate them.
yeah.
We'll work on that.
Thank you, Jim. So the answer was, the answer from Jim was, Jim Miller, from a director from Men's Sheds Canada, is working on it. And it's in progress. There's a number of humps to be gotten over. So that's the short version of Jim's answer. We've thought about it a number of times. In the United Kingdom, they've tried to do it and found this is just too bulky. Every shed does something different. There's no way we can negotiate a policy that covers every activity. So they just negotiated a break, a price break with a few different companies. But we'll see what we can do in Canada. But thanks for the question. Doug.
I'm here representing Men's Sheds Ontario.
And there's a mic coming for you.
A very special guest. In Ontario, we've arranged with Cooperators Insurance to provide insurance to all of the sheds who are members of Men's Sheds Ontario. And frankly, the question of what we do hasn't really come up. We have liability insurance, we have accident insurance, we have fire insurance, we have theft insurance, and we have, what's the other? There's one other, directors and operators insurance. So it seems to work very, very well for us, and Cooperators seems to be very happy with it. I don't know if other people are using Cooperators across Canada, but
Yep.
yeah.
That's our
But
common.
it seems to work very, very well. And they seem to be very, very keen on providing us with reduced fees for that. So just
Yep. Thanks, Doug. And next question. Oh, good.
Could you line up?
Okay, Brian, I think you can answer this question. We got a member here from Nova Scotia and one from Quebec, one from Ontario. I have a question. What the hell is Saskatchewan doing? They got any?
Oh, yeah,
sheds in
we've got a
Saskatchewan?
bunch of guys here from Saskatchewan.
Oh, there we are. Good. Hey. So how many sheds do we have in Saskatchewan?
Round number 4 established, 3 more just getting going.
Okay.
So that's more than the 3 we had last year. So we're moving forward in Saskatchewan.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
why I just, I never heard, so I
Yeah.
wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
thank
see
you.
them on our map out there
Okay.
in the hallway.
Okay.
Another question in the back, Riley.
Yeah.
I get nervous with my
Start over.
because I'm doing a comedian act tonight. Speak the good England or the Canadian English? Okay. I'll try and slow down and practice for tonight, my comedy skit. So have you ever thought of doing a wife swap? Instead of doing wife swap, you do a shed swap. So you go to someone else's shed and they come to your shed while they're traveling and you just swap homes. Or you could just swap wives and you go and join the other guy's shed. I didn't say sheep, I said shed. I didn't say shithead, I said shed. So have you ever thought of doing that? Doing like a wife swap, we call it, but you guys call it a shed swap. All around the world there's over 500 sheds. I belong to 3.5. I say half because Fort Capel's only halfway there. But with you guys' help, we can make a great team. So thank you.
Okay.
That's a question to the panel.
You have different terms and a different dialect in Saskatchewan. So, but thank you. I didn't hear the question, but anyway, thank you. Any other questions? So these guys up here do a whole lot of work, a whole lot of background, all the grunt work that it takes to start an association, do the outreach, come up against the problems that sheds have. So this is your opportunity to really grill them. Is there a question back there? So I want to ask you guys, how do you deal with, because Bill Jeffrey's here from Newfoundland. Where are you, Bill? And his problem is he's got a ton of guys interested in starting men's shed. Like they say, this is a great idea, let's do it. But nobody wants to lead it. How do you guys deal with it? What approach do you take to inspire somebody to stand up and start a men's shed? Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, it's Mike Bardell-Smith from the Kootenay Lake East Shore Men's Shed. I was not quite sure what this session was going to be all about, but the first thing I have to say about inspiring people is our shed, which is a small one, remote part of the world, wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Men's Shed Association of BC and United Way and also Men's Shed Canada. And I want to say a big thank you to you guys. Now, in terms of outreach, I think the model that I've been engaged with because MSABC are like the mafia. Jan's a bit like a godfather in that you kind of get in with him and he helps you because you get a startup grant, you get a grant to get your tools, and you think, hey, this is great, this is wonderful. And then his hand comes on your shoulder and he says, Mike, outreach. We've got these people who want to form sheds that are near to you. Well, you have to be careful what he means by near. But anyway, and what you do is there was a process set up whereby the people, and this is to your point, Brian, who said, oh, we've got lots of people who want to start a shed, but no leaders. You get some people who are already shed members to go and do a presentation to these people to say, this is how you start, or this is our story, coming back to stories, this is our story, and how would something like this work in your environment? Now, if you're lucky, you've got a group of people who, and we've had some experience of this. We went to Nelson, we went to Trail, we went to Creston, we went to Nakusp. In Nelson, the first try, nobody turned up. Literally, nobody turned up. Somewhat disappointing. Coffee was okay, but nobody turned up. We did a repeat of it, and this is plays to how do you make this work? It's persistence, and 6 people turned up. And from that, an embryonic Nelson shed started. But there was no, what I would say, spark plug turned up at that meeting. Somebody who fits the double Venn diagram that was talked about earlier. Compare and contrast, we pitched up at Nakusp, 20 people turned up. I think Guy is there. Guy is here, who was there from Nakusp. Instant bite. People were fighting over each other to lead, and it took off. So my point to everybody here is not that there is a magic process that works. There is a process, and it takes time and patience, and it probably fails 3 times out of 4. But it only needs to succeed once. And if you go talk to Guy over here about what the result of that was, it's phenomenal.
So thanks, Mike. And if I was to summarize, would I say that it's about mentoring? It's about established sheds, mentoring new sheds in their region? Is that what you were? Yeah, Jan's nodding. So that's one good approach. Agreed. Because showing up in person is so much better than showing up on Zoom, right? So you establish a relationship with that shed, right? So that's one answer. Any other answers from the panel about leadership, inspiring leadership?
A quick story around Vancouver, Sunshine Coast. You folks know Gibson's all the way to Sultry Bay, which is a long drive. So we did an outreach about a couple of years ago. Again, no answers. And recently we got invited by the senior service providers all the way up the Sunshine Coast. There was about 15 senior advisors, and we were invited to be there, and they were just lapped it. And somehow we connected with the community there. One of our shedders, Greg's son, lives in Gibson's, Gabriel. He was there. He jumped on, took the leadership. Now they've got up and down the coast, Pender Harbor, Madeira Park, and I think in this case, the service providers, the community linked, that caused the leadership to shine on.
Okay, I can't get off this stage without giving everybody an opportunity up here and myself to talk about success. Some of the successes we've had. And you heard me when I said about you had to increase the number of voices to spread the message about sheds. In Alberta, we've used the leadership process. We've used a collaborative process. And one example of a really valuable partnership with a group called Healthy Aging Alberta. And they invited us a couple of years ago to go to their regional meetings. And Sheds had a chance at 11 of these regional meetings to tell their story 4 times. So they were able to get to hundreds and hundreds of people through these sessions. Well, comes up 2026, they're having a major summit. And we are sitting there rubbing our hands together thinking, oh boy, maybe we'll get a chance to speak, or maybe they'll let us have a workshop or something. No, can't have that. We're giving you a room, an entire room, and we want you to create a shed. And that's going to become the information center for sheds for the entire conference. Well, Trevin, who's in here he suggested that all the guys that participated in that shed wore these vests. So here you have 500 delegates at a conference about health issues for seniors. And all of a sudden there are 40 some odd volunteers recruited by Riley over there. And all of a sudden, men's sheds becomes the topic of the conference. Over 100 of those 500 people came into the shed room and they were attacked by shedders. And they all had stories and they were talking about the neat things that happened to them. And people might come in and ask about how to start a shed. They were there telling them this is how we did it in this part of the city or that part of the city, or in fact, this part of the province. So there's huge value in having these partnerships and reaching out and collaborating with groups. As I said before, FCSS, 25% of the sheds in Alberta were held by them. When you begin to spread the word about sheds, then other people jump in. Edmonton is organized in neighborhoods. We have the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues, 160 community leagues potentially having sheds. Out of the blue, Agriculture Financial Corporation of Alberta called and said, hey, we want to help. We want you to help us in rural Alberta because healthy farmers is a healthy farm industry. And we think what you guys are doing in men's sheds is absolutely fantastic. So please, don't think that you have to do everything by yourself. Look around, examine your networks. Who do you know? Begin to talk to them. You'll become a pain in the ass, but keep talking to people and these things will happen for you. And you can compare province to province. There are systems across all of the provinces that have similar things that you can hitchhike on. The insurance was just one of them. Alberta uses cooperators as well. Headquarters in Sylvan Lake, which there happens to be a shed.
Thanks, Punch. Any other successes anybody wants to share on the stage? Any other last call for questions from the audience? Okay.
Microphone again. So you mentioned a couple of times, and this is for all of you and for all of us actually, is again, my background, as some of you heard earlier, is digital communications and communication and getting the message out to your members, but also to the community. Now, my question is to everyone in the room is how do we connect with other shedders post this conference? And we talk about the community, talk about your provincial associations and Canadian association, but is there a way to connect to other shedders from shed to shed? And is there a consideration for that, or is it even worthwhile? So I can go on to a medium, whatever that medium is irrelevant, and say, I can now touch base on this gentleman's website and connect with him and say, hey, how are you doing, sort of thing. So support each other, but also to learn from each other. So it's just an open question if that's something that we may consider down the road. So therefore it connects all the shedders as well as provincial leaders all in one forum.
What a great idea. And
I volunteer Brian to lead. Anybody else?
I'm going to bring up, so yes, Barb jumped up. So Barb's going to answer that.
Has anybody heard of the Shed Hub? Is that all? Okay. So what's that? No, it's not a secret. If you are a member of Men's Sheds Canada, if your shed is a member, you can join the Shed Hub. And Jill over there gets lots of requests from a representative from a shed, but even better, if all the shed members or any who are interested join the Shed Hub, because that's going to give them access to the resources we talked about in the governance section and a few others I've probably mentioned, our toolboxes on a lot of different topics. There's a display with them out in our exhibit in the shed showcase. But in addition to resources like that, there's what we call chat zones. Does anybody, a few of you have been on the chat zones, right? So chat zones are areas where you can continue these conversations. There's different topic areas. You can start your own topic if you want, but there's one on fund development. And John, who I don't think is in the room now, he's probably at the registration desk. John goes through a lot of different, like a database that we have of funding opportunities, and he posts those like every week. Some of them are, specific to a region or a community or a province or wide open, but he posts those so anybody who's looking for grant opportunities can apply. But you can also talk about other fund development topics in that, like, has anybody applied for New Horizons grant? What's your experience been? Or, all kinds of things having to do with fund development, sponsorships, donations, etc. There's marketing and communications. There's governance. There's a few questions in there about governance. One of the most active chat zones that I've seen recently, and I was just kind of checking for a few other things, was the Lac Brome shed in Quebec posted about how do you support shed members who have hearing impairments, right? And that seems to be a really fairly common issue for sheds. And there were so many posts, so many responses saying this is what we do, or we don't need, or aren't doing anything, but are really interested. And then there's photos of what the Lac Brome shed did around putting sound tiles up on the roof of their workshop, and what a big difference that made. So that Shed Hub is available for you to keep these conversations going on whatever topics you are interested in. And we hope that the connections that you're making here, as I said in the intergenerational initiative, Bridging Generations earlier, keep these conversations going. They're so valuable. We're learning from you. I think you're learning from each other. Lots of great ideas and examples are being shared, but also questions. We'll monitor them for, what are your concerns? What are your questions? And if nobody jumps in to respond, we'll try to prompt a response or provide a response. So, yes? You can just email us if you, or you can go online, and Jill over there has taken the lead on making sure that you get access with your email address and password. And we really encourage not just one member from a shed, but everybody who's interested, because we can all benefit from connecting. It's that peer-to-peer learning that we're seeing here is so effective.
Don Streeter from the Fraser Lake Shed. One of the things I'm hearing right now, and all afternoon, all morning, is that, oh yeah, shed stuff. Well, that's nice. We got a hell of a pile of people out there that, number one, haven't even got a clue we exist. So everybody, tell whoever, it doesn't matter, your grandmother, your kid, whatever, your teacher at school, the guy at work, whatever, the guy at coffee, bring the awareness that we exist up in the country. Because if we don't bring it up, we don't have new members coming in. We don't have new sheds coming up. So nobody says, oh, well, hey, I've heard of that once before. It doesn't happen. So we got to get off our fuzzy little butts and poke the bear and say, hey, get one going. We need the recruits. It's dead simple. We either recruit or we die. Because a lot of us are going to be down that road one of these days.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And we're hearing lots of great examples already
just
today
fine.
and tomorrow around how some of them are doing that. We certainly heard some in the intergenerational session earlier, but we don't have time to go into that now. And just again, to be clear that the Shed Hub is for internal. It's not open to the public. We have a website that anybody in the public can go and look and get lots of information about sheds all over Canada, and some of the research and resources, connections with the international sheds in the country associations. Lots of information there, but for the specific things like the toolboxes and the chat zones, it's by password, because you have to be a member, because we don't want it to be diluted with all kinds of folks who don't know much or aren't really involved in sheds. So we encourage you to go to the Shed Hub and use it.
So one of the things I would like to say is go to the website when you're traveling, look up what sheds are there, send an email to them. They're more than welcome, and everybody in there. I've been doing that already for quite a few years, and not only in BC, but also in Alberta. So simple thing to do.
And
Bring your pads.
the question that kicked this off was, will we be connected from ShedFest on somehow? And we will be, thank you. And we will be, and Shed Hub is the place to go. It's a bit like Field of Dreams. We built it hoping you would come. So it's there. We have the capability. We're willing to support we have a platform for your website. We have the chat zone. We have a calendar so you can tell each other what you're doing. That's the whole point. It's an online community of shedders. So that's the answer to that one. And just ask us about it, because we can talk all day about it, but that's not why we're here right now. But ask us about it afterwards, because we'll make sure we'll get you enrolled. We want you to enroll. Was there one more question?
Yeah, so it's more of a statement. My name's Eric with
Yep.
Beaumont. You're saying about outreach and getting men in. I was looking for this, and I've talked to others in my community, and they're quite excited. So I don't think this is we need to, it's not like conscription or anything. Men in my group, this is something that they want. And if we make it work, I just think this is a huge success. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And so many men hear about us. Well, A is by voice, by person-to-person communication, but B, online on an interview, on a TV interview, or on the radio. So we're doing some campaigns, some media campaigns to reach out. And we did it in Newfoundland. We did it in Saskatchewan. That's why we're succeeding there. And so we're getting the word out and in all the ways that we can. And these guys are doing it too. So I want to let them off the hook here, because we are at the end of our session for this one. But I want to say, you guys, I get to work with them regularly. So I know how much work they do. Maybe you don't, but I do. And it's a real honor to work with these guys, because they have sheds and shedders in mind. They devote most of their days and even weekends to helping get sheds started. And as somebody said, 3 times out of 4, it doesn't work. Yeah, but it does work that one time. So these guys have put a lot of their lives into shedding in the last decade or so. So I really want to say thank you, men. Robert, would you come up? So we're not finished the program quite yet. Robert Golick, are you in the house? Where is he? Oh, he's coming. Okay. Robert's getting a drink.
Are you taking this out or you're gonna leave that here? Oh, if you want. Just get started. Thank you. Okay, can I have your attention, please? Hello? We need your attention, please. Thank you. So today we want to recognize something special. Not just a person, but a builder of a movement. For over 15 years, Punch Jackson has been advancing the vision of men's sheds. Since 2011, he has worked relentlessly, meeting with counselors, community groups, organizations across Edmonton, political representatives, always delivering one message. Men's sheds are not a service. They are a solution to isolation, to disconnection, to men being left behind. Punch didn't stop at that, not only in this city. He reached out to Manitoba, to British Columbia, and he saw something early, something critical. This movement needed infrastructure to survive, so we helped build it. Provincial connections, national alignment, a collective voice. Not for recognition, but so sheds could grow, learn, and stand together strong. But here's what truly defines Punch Jackson. You know, he didn't run sheds. He made them possible. He connected people before they even knew each other. He turned ideas into action. And he kept the focus exactly where it belongs, men supporting men. He also told a story, documenting the movement across the world. So it wouldn't just grow, it would spread. And because of that, his legacy is something very powerful, an infrastructure of belonging. Places where men find purpose, connection, and dignity, not through programs, but through each other. Punch, because of you, the movement exists. Because of you, it continues to grow. And so it is my great honor to present the Men's Sheds Foundation Builder Award to you on behalf of the Men's Shed Association of Edmonton, the Alberta Men's Shed Association, and Men's Sheds Canada. Thank you for building what truly matters. Punch Jackson, yeah. What is the oil? The puzzle. We'll get it. Hang on. It's a beautiful puzzle. Read what it says. Yeah. Let me read what it says. I got to put my glasses on. An appreciation for 15 dedicated years of instrumental service in advocating for men's sheds in the city of Edmonton and the province of Alberta, and for connecting sheds around the world. On behalf of Men's Sheds Association of Edmonton, Alberta Men's Shed Association, and Men's Sheds Canada. There you go. You guys look over here.
Would you like to say something, or you want to do it from here?
Down here, but this one's better. Shed happens. Well, I guess from taking something from this morning, I hope I've got enough guys now to carry my casket. So it's been an interesting journey. There's been a lot of people that have been involved with me along the way, or me involved with them. Amanda has been with us for 10 years with supporting me and being a shed starter-upper on her own. Diane, who's in the room somewhere over here, who's been acted as, we have to have an official title for everything, the EA to the board, and brings all of her years of experience as an executive director of a social service agencies. So she's been providing amazing advice. So another thing I have to learn, or had to learn, was make sure you're a listener, Punch. Make sure you listen to what's going on. The neat thing about the journey that I've had is that it started out with writing a newspaper called Men Sheds Across the World. And the whole thing about the idea behind it was just to simply share stories from New Zealand, from Scotland, and even from, I discovered there are 2 sheds in Estonia. So that there was a tremendous amount of learning through this process of having a newspaper and sharing it. I hope that you guys have all learned something over the last few hours and tomorrow as well. It's a long journey. Be very patient. And when you're a new shed and you come on, you're full of piss and vinegar. You got more ideas than you can shake a stick at. And the guys that are standing opposite you are looking at you and saying, holy Jesus, we've heard that idea before. But respect the energy of the new sheds, involve the guys in the new sheds, the new people, and just be patient. It will happen. Will happen. So thanks for helping, and we'll just keep on shedding along.